Hello everyone, David A. Cox here with PCClassesOnline.com. If you've never heard of us, we are a free virtual classroom service available to everyone worldwide completely for free, so check out our website online. Today we're going to be talking about the iPad, and we're going to cover all of the basics. This is actually called our New to iPad class. Now, today we're going to be going over the operating system iOS 7 and really everything that you would need to know if you've just gotten your very first iPad to get started. So I think probably the first place that we should begin is by talking about what the different buttons do. Now, you are looking at a live image of my iPad. I have it in front of me. You're just looking at a version that's mirrored on my screen here, so I can use my pointer to point out certain features. So let's talk about the different buttons. The most obvious one is the one right here on the front of the screen, and that is called the Home button. Anytime you're in an app or application and you want to get back to the main screen, you can just press that button. There's a few other things that it does, and we'll go over those in a little bit. Now, I can't turn my iPad for you, but over here on the side, we have a couple of other buttons. We have a up and down button, which indicates the volume. So if I press and hold that right now, oops, sorry, screen went out. You see as I hold the up button, the volume goes up. And if I hold it down, it'll go down. Now, above that, there's another switch, and that switch it's a toggle, and it can be used for one of two things. It can either be used as a mute button, which I don't really recommend, or it can be used as a lock orientation button. And I'm going to tell you how you can set it for either once we start talking about the different settings in the iPad. Now, on here at the very top, we have a sleep switch, and if you just press it and release it, the screen will go out. And you can then either press that button or the home button to wake it up. Now in iOS 7, you can swipe from left to right anywhere on the screen. You no longer have to do it at the bottom of the screen. So you are, like I said, you are looking at my iPad. I do not keep many apps on my iPad because I use it mostly for demonstration purposes. I actually use my laptop and my iPhone more than I do my iPad, but that's just me. I'm still a fan. So let's go over a few different features that I think all of you should know, especially as a new user. One of the things I always like to go over because it can solve most problems is, let's say someday you're on your iPad and it freezes and nothing really seems to work. You hit the power button, sleep switch rather, nothing happens. You hit the home button, nothing happens. There's a really easy trick that you can do which resolves most issues like this. And it's called a hard reset. And the way you do it is you press and hold both the home button and the sleep switch at the same time. You hold it for about 8 seconds, and you're going to see a screen that's going to pop up that's going to indicate, do you want to shut it down? Ignore it. Just keep holding it, and you do not let go until you see an Apple logo appear on your screen. It's just an easy way to do a reset. It's the same thing on your computer as holding in that reset button if you still have one that does that. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to talk about a feature called multitasking because this confuses a lot of people. Now, in past versions of iOS 7, if you didn't clear out apps from running in the background, it would really harm your battery life. It's not so much of an issue now, but I do still recommend it. So let me first show you how it works and then show you how to resolve it. Let's say I go into my calculator app here. Okay, and I do my thing. I don't know why it's taking so long to load. There we go. I do my thing on my calculator. Okay, I return to the main screen, and then maybe I go into the camera app. My iPad is laying on a table, so you're not going to see much. Now, both of those apps are now running in the background. And the way you can get to them is by double clicking the home button. So when I do that, you see the screen kind of shifts, and I can use my finger and swipe over here, and I can see the various apps that I have right now running in the background. So I've got my email there, okay? And if I want to go into any of these, all I have to do is tap right here, and I'll go into it. Now, in the past, this looked very, very different in iOS 6. And one of the questions I've been getting a lot since iOS 7 came out is, how do I really quit this from running in the background? The way you quit it is you take your finger right here and slide up. And when you do that, whoosh, it disappears. Here's another little trick that you can do if you like. You can actually take if you can see, like right now, you can see 3 apps right there, okay? You can actually clear all 3 at the same time just by swiping up. Okay, pretty cool feature. So now let's go back into the main screen. I wanted to clear that up right off the bat. The next feature I want to show you is a really handy feature when sometimes you need to get access to certain controls and you don't want to have to go through settings. Maybe you're in the middle of an app, you just want to turn Wi-Fi on or off, or you want to make the screen brighter or make the sound a little less. So here's how you do it. There's a feature in iOS 7 called Control Center. And the way you get to Control Center is you take your finger at the very bottom of the screen here and just swipe up. And when you do that, you'll get your little icons right here. So let me show you what these all mean. If I were playing music right now, my music controls would be right here. So obviously I have the play button, previous track, next track, a secondary volume control here if you don't want to use the buttons on the side. Over here in the middle, let me go over these. The airplane, I'm sure you can guess, but that is airplane mode. The one next to that, that is the universal symbol for Wi-Fi. That's an important one to memorize because it comes up a lot, especially if you're trying to find free Wi-Fi in a public place. Next, we have Bluetooth. So if you are trying to hook up to your car, you need to make sure that that's on, as an example. The little moon that you see right here is a feature that we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's called Do Not Disturb mode. When you have that feature enabled, nothing's going to, let's say if my iPad is off and I get a Facebook notification, nothing's going to light up. It's just going to stay silent. And finally over here, we have basically it's just when you tap on it, it just mutes all sound. Okay, so you don't have to worry about any kind of sounds at all. Now over here on the right hand side, we have a little clock, and that will go into the clock app. Most people use that only for setting an alarm. You wouldn't probably use this a lot on an iPad. You would use it more on an iPhone. And then over here, we have instant access to the camera. So if you need to pull up the camera real quick, that is one way to do it. Down here at the very bottom right, you see a little sun followed by a big sun. This is the brightness controls. Okay. And finally, the last two. Down here at the bottom left, we have a feature called AirDrop. Now, AirDrop is pretty cool if you have a lot of friends together. And I'll give you an example of how you could use it. I can't really do it for you right now. Let's say I take a great photo of a group of my friends, and I say, who wants the photo? As long as we're all right in the same area, everyone can go into AirDrop and turn it on. And basically what I will be able to do is take that photo, or pretty much anything, for the most part, on my iPad and send it into all of their devices. It's a pretty cool feature. Finally, over here where you see it currently says David's MacBook Air, that is actually AirPlay. AirPlay is the technology that we use to do these classes. That's why it says my laptop right now. But the example where you might use it is, let's say you have a bunch of great photos on your iPad and you want to put them on your TV. Well, as long as you have a little box called Apple TV, you can now mirror your iPad, just like I'm doing right now, onto your television. And then you can go through all the photos and everyone can see it on the big screen. And that is Control Center. And once again, to get to it, all you have to do is take your finger at the bottom of the screen and swipe up. When you're done with it, just swipe down. And it goes away. Now, the next feature is at the top of the screen, and this is called Notification Center. Take your finger at the very top and swipe down. Okay, so you can see here, my entire day was set to getting our website up and running. But you'll see items on your calendar that you have. If you scroll down, you'll see other reminders that you have coming up. Okay. If I go over here to the All tab, oh, by the way, it also tells you the temperature. I'm sure you're all really jealous of where I am right now, where it is a really balmy 43 degrees. Go over here to All. And you'll see that I have text messages I've gotten in from friends. I'll blur some of those out in post-production. I'll see CNN alerts that I've gotten in. If I swipe up, you'll see other things like what apps you have that have recently updated, new videos that people who I subscribe to on YouTube have released, anything that you ask to be notified about through these different apps. And then you have missed, so any missed calls that you have. Not really something you're going to be using terribly on the iPad. But that is really handy. More than anything, I found that that's handy for finding out really quickly what the temperature is going to be. Now, the next feature I want to talk about is the camera. Now, as I said, my iPad as it is right now is actually on my desk. So you're not going to see much, and I'm shy, so I'm not going to go on camera right now. No makeup, you know. So let me show you a couple features of the camera that you're going to want to be aware of here. Now, this button you see at the very, very top, and this is going to shift depending on how you're holding your iPad. This is the button to switch cameras. So if I tap that, it's going to switch from the front-facing camera, from the back-facing camera to the front-facing camera, or vice versa. HDR is a feature that is perfect if you're taking a photo of something that has two different types of lighting. I'll give you an example. The best one I know of is a sunset. So if you're shooting a sunset, especially if there's a sunset in the background, your foreground's going to be one kind of lighting, but your background's going to be a different. What HDR does is it actually takes two photos and merges them together. It stands for high dynamic range. It's great for those kind of conditions. Also, a sunrise would be another example. So you can check that out. Now, this little white button here, technically speaking, is a shutter. However, there's a better way to take photos on the iPad. I'll get to it in just a minute. Actually, you know what? Let's go over it right now. Instead of using this button, this is like the number one trick that I get to teach people walking down the street. Instead of using this button, think about what you do. If I tap on my iPad, I am physically moving it. Even if I'm really gentle, I am moving it. And when you do that, you do slightly lose focus. The trick to take a better photo is instead of using this button, the volume plus button on the side acts as a shutter when you are in camera mode. Now, more than anything, people take photos with their iPhone, not so much their iPad, because it's a little bit awkward to hold it. But it is a great trick to get a better photo. Now, you have three different modes here. You have video, photo, and square. So to get to these different modes, all you do is swipe up or down on your iPad. So for example, I just swipe down and you can see it changes into video mode. So now when I click on this red button or use the volume plus button, it's going to start recording video. If I swipe up, it goes down to the next one. Now I'm in photo mode. If I swipe up again, I get this little square thing. What it'll do, if I just lift my iPad up a little bit, you'll see that it goes into the shape of a box. And now if I swipe back to regular photo, you can see the difference between the two. Okay, that's about it for the camera that we're going to cover today. The next great feature that you have, of course, in your iPad is Siri. And Siri is the automated assistant, and you can use it for tons of different things. In fact, if you want to learn more about Siri, what I would recommend doing is go to our website at pcclassesonline.com, and we have a full video talking about all the different commands that you can use with Siri. Everything from getting driving directions to restaurant recommendations, weather forecasts, sports scores, finding out what movies are playing in your area, a whole bunch of different things. But I think we should probably talk about how do you activate Siri. Well, the way you do it is you press and hold the home button. So when you do that, you get Siri. Hello, Siri. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
And you can have a pointless conversation, or you can actually use her for, good things, like all the items I just mentioned. Or you can, of course, have a completely pointless conversation, like, Siri, what is the meaning of life?
A movie.
Well, that's the first time I've heard that one. In the past, I've always heard chocolate as her answer. They make her a little snarky these days. Siri, really helpful for a lot of things. You can also use her to do things like send emails, text messages, that kind of thing. Again, all of those are covered in the Siri class that we offer. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the different settings in the iPad. Now, one other class just to give a quick shout out to is there's a really helpful video that we did on how to get your battery life back. There's a couple of features that are enabled when you upgrade to iOS 7 on your device, which won't give you the best battery life in the world. And we show you all the different features that you can remove to increase your battery life, get it back to the way it normally is. By the way, for anyone who's curious, since it has come up in the comments section before, if you have been paying attention to my battery, you will notice that it does fall quickly. That is because of these classes, and none of you do this, so don't worry about it. Of course, up here at the very top, we have our Wi-Fi, airplane mode, Bluetooth, and cellular data settings. You'll only see these cellular data settings if you have a 4G iPad, rather. So that being, you can get online even when you're not in a wireless network using the same cell phone signals that your phone would. Let's see here. Notification Center, you can go in and tweak your different settings here. You can tell the iPad what things you want to include in Notification Center and what you don't want to see. Just a reminder, that was when we pulled down from the top. That's what we saw. Do Not Disturb mode. This is an important one to go over. So if you're like me, I am a fan of sleep. And if you like something that I put out there on Facebook at 3 in the morning, I don't necessarily want to know about it, at least not then. Do Not Disturb mode is a lifesaver. So what you can do is schedule it so that between certain hours, if someone, for example, sends you a tweet, responds to something on Facebook, emails you, your iPad does not light up, it doesn't make a sound, and you can sleep. So all you have to do is turn it on, and you can tell it what hours to do that. Now, this doesn't really apply so much to the iPad as it does the iPhone. There is a feature here where if someone were to call you, in this case, the only way they would do that is FaceTime. But if they try to call you twice, it will ring. It will light up even during those hours. Let's see. Next, we can go here into General. I'm just going to go over a couple of the main features here. Software update. This is where you will go whenever a new version to the operating system comes out, whether it's iOS 7.1 or eventually 7.8. The way that you'll know that this is ready to be updated is when you see the little icon over here for settings that looks like a gear, there will be a red, theoretically, number 1 right there. And so that means that you have a software update. Siri, this is where you need to tell Siri who you are. It's important that in your contacts you need to have your information, your name, email address, phone number, address. That's where Siri gets that information. So for example, if I tell Siri, how do I get home, or give me directions to get home, she'll know where home is. You can also now, in Siri, make it a male or a female. I, for whatever reason, just decided to keep it female. I actually have a funny answer for that, but I'm not going to say it in this class. A couple other things we have here. Remember I told you about that switch on the side, the toggle, where you can make it a lock orientation or a mute button? It's right here. This is under General, and make sure it's on lock rotation, not mute. Mute's just kind of silly. Background app refresh. When you go in, if you take the class that I was just mentioning about how to save battery life, that is one of the major places where it's located. You can go through some of these other ones here. Wallpaper, of course, is the background. You can make it whatever you want. Privacy. iCloud is how you synchronize your data between your iPad, your iPhone, and your computer. It doesn't synchronize everything. One of the biggest misconceptions about iCloud, it does not back up your photos. That is a common misconception. It is like a transfer station for your photos. It will hold on to them temporarily. It is not a backup. Let's see. Anything else we need to go over here? You can go through the different, all the apps that you install. Many of them have their own settings here. One feature I strongly recommend is that you go here into where it says iTunes and App Store. This is a great new feature. How much of a pain in the butt? I don't know why we've got a little delay. It was such a pain in the butt. You'd have to constantly run software updates on your iPad. Well, guess what? Now you can do it automatically just by checking this box here. Okay? So when you have this, you will never have to run another update to an app ever. It's wonderful. Other features? If you use Facebook, this is just a recommendation. If you use Facebook with your iPad. Okay. I strongly recommend that you not tell it to sync calendars or contacts. Here's the reason why. Facebook did this really nasty trick a while back where they took your actual email address in Facebook and they disguised it and made it look at facebook.com. So the problem is that if you enable this, it's going to go into your address book and it's going to alter your friends' email addresses to be at facebook.com. It's a pain in the butt. Don't use it. The other one is calendars here. If you're like me, I get a million invitations to different things that I'll never ever go to. And if you have that feature turned on, it's going to go right into your calendar and it's never going to go away. So please turn that off. Next, let's get out of settings here. I think we've covered everything that we really need to in there. My little notes here. Another feature, by the way, that is built into iOS 7, and I bring this up with caution, is a feature called iCloud Keychain. And basically what that does is if you use Safari on your Mac or PC, it will synchronize your passwords with your iPad and your other devices. Here's the reason why I don't recommend it. For those of you who have gotten to know me and taken many of our classes, you may be aware I am not a fan of Safari. In fact, you don't even see it on my screen right now. I actually have it hidden right here in this little folder called Basics. Instead, I'm a fan of Google Chrome. And the reason why is Google Chrome has that feature built into it. So you can get Chrome for free on your Mac, PC, iPhone, iPad, Droid, whatever you have, and it will automatically sync that same data. So I bring that up with a word of caution. Next, let's talk a little bit about how to get apps. So the way you get apps is through the App Store, which comes pre-installed on the iPad. Now, you do need to have an Apple ID to do this. If you don't have an Apple ID, here's how you get one. When you go to the App Store, make sure you're here on Featured at the very bottom left and scroll to the very, very bottom. Now, down here, you'll see the preview of My Apple ID. Instead, right here at the bottom left, it would say, I believe it's either sign in or get an Apple ID. It's something like that. It's right there, whatever it is. Getting the actual Apple ID is free. It does have you link your information to a credit card, or if you don't want to use a credit card, you can technically use a gift card. So that is another option. It's really just used for when you go to buy music or apps. If you check out our website, if you check out some of the apps that we recommend, I think that if you're brand new to the iPad, or maybe even more so if you're giving someone an iPad as a gift, I don't think you really need more than $20 to maybe $30 total in apps to be all set. Most of the best ones out there are free. So you can check those out on our website, of course. When you find an app that you want, let's just say I get the Apple Store for iPad, which I wouldn't get. If you look right here, it says free. If this was a paid app, it would have the price right there. All you do is tap on it. Once you've created your Apple ID, you'll have a password. You type that in, and it will go onto your screen. Now, one I will throw out there, just give it a little extra attention. I'll give you two that I really recommend. Art Rage here is a fantastic app. If you check out, we have a full class on that. And if you want a really fun game, today's date, by the way, is December 2nd. We just had Thanksgiving here. This year, my family, we hosted Thanksgiving. We had the whole family here, and we played this awesome game together called Heads Up. It's produced by Ellen DeGeneres. It's a lot of fun. It's a great game, especially when you have a large group of people. You'll have a blast, I'm sure. So that's just a quick shout out for another fun one. Let's see. Once you've got your apps, you may find that you have several pages of apps once you go through all of them. Now you'll notice that on mine I have them organized into folders. So we're going to talk about how you organize them, move them, create folders, and how to delete them. And the way you do it is you start with pressing and holding on any one of them. Doesn't matter. So let's take Art Rage here as an example. I'm going to just press and hold on it, and you'll see that they start to jiggle. Now, some of these apps have a little X at the top left. If I were to tap that, that is how you delete an app. Now, the other thing you can do when they're moving like this is you can move them around. So let's say I want to put these in alphabetical order. I can take Art Rage and just with my finger just drag it up to this position, and everything else moves over. To create a folder of apps, let's say I want to take Art Rage and I want to put it in a folder with camera. All I do is take it, I was just about to do it with my mouse, take it and drag it and drop it. It can be a little tricky if it's on the corner. Come on, get in there. Get. All right, let's do it with photos. Just drop it right in there. Now, when you do that, it is going to try to figure out the name of the folder for you. If you don't agree with it, tap this little X. The keyboard pops up, and you can call it whatever you want. Okay? Now, when you're done and you want to lock it in, just press the home button. And it's locked in. And that's how you do it. Now, another feature in iOS 7 is these pages of this right here. You see these apps. See how there's a second dot right here? You can actually have multiple pages of apps in one particular folder. I keep going to move it on my mouse, and I mean to do it on my iPad. Sorry about that. Next, I want to go over a couple of quick little features in the email program. So let's go into that. Okay, so you're looking at a dummy account that I created just for this. So this is what it would look like with your email. Couple of quick changes. In the past, if you wanted to delete messages here, there were a couple of different ways you can do it, and it's slightly different now. So if I want to delete multiple emails, I could tap on the edit button up here, and then tap a bunch of messages. Okay, and then hit trash, or in some cases it will say archive at the very bottom right. That still applies. Let's cancel that out. Now, the other way that you could do it, and this is the part that's different, if I wanted to just delete this individual message here, okay, I could in the past slide my finger from left to right, and a delete button would appear here, and I'd tap it. This confused a lot of people when iOS 7 came out because that feature appeared to be gone. It's not. It's reversed. Don't ask me why. It's just reversed. You slide your finger from right to left, and you get that button back, archive, and boom, it goes away. Now, the other thing that you can do is, let's say you go into an email that you're going to be sending out, or that you're going to be deleting. You have the buttons up here. This button right here may or may not look like a box, or it'll look like a trash can. Either case, it's the same way you delete it. Let's go over the other icons, just since we have time, obviously. This button right here is compose, so to create a brand new message. This button right here is reply, reply all, and print. Little trick, by the way, if you want to print from your iPad, you do, technically speaking, need an AirPrint compatible printer, or if you go onto our website, we have a little trick for how you can turn your current printer into an AirPrint printer so that your iPad will be able to print directly to your printer. It's a little trick. It actually goes through your computer, but it's a way that it'll do it a lot easier without you having to buy a new printer, certainly. This next little button right here is to folder it away. If you have folders set up in your email, excuse me, it's getting late. If you have different folders in your email, let's say you have a receipt and you want to put this in receipts, you would tap this button and you'd be able to put it in there. And then finally we have flag right here. Okay. One other little feature we'll talk about in email. Let's go into composing a new message. Now, of course, I can go through here and I can type in all my different information. Let's go to the actual message here. Now, if you're running this on an iPad 2, this feature will not apply. However, if you're running on anything else, you should be fine. You see this little microphone icon down here? That is built-in dictation. Now, in order to use this feature, you do need to be connected to the internet, okay, and preferably a wireless network, not just cellular. So let's use it as a test. Hello, David. I loved taking your class today. I can't wait to take more later this week. Period. And when you do that, you can see it dictates everything into text. You can speak punctuation, and it's a really nifty feature. Cancel that out. Well, everyone, we have gone through an awful lot in an unbelievably short amount of time. Please be sure to go to our website and check out some of our other classes if you happen to be watching this video on YouTube. Definitely, we do appreciate giving us that little thumbs up button. It helps us out. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. This is David A. Cox with PC Classes Online. Take care.